Welcome in everybody to another episode of Thunder Sports Pod with JT and
The stash, baby. We back again.
we got some special guests of Gunner and Sam joining us in today for college football recap and summary. Going ahead and talking about the college football season, wrapping it up. Do we have any thoughts? Let's go ahead and go with the stash over here. What's your initial thoughts on the season?
I think the season's been a lot of crazy. I like it though. I liked all the hype for the month and a half for Colorado. That was a big part of what I liked this year.
Hmm. Yeah, and then they kind of died
Yeah.
off the cliff, with Shadur doing the
Mm.
all the celebration and stuff like that. But I don't know. It was Sam predicted them to do much better than what they did. Uh,
Yeah. Well, it was looking right at first, and then it
yeah,
just took a hard turn for the
exactly.
worse.
I
Well, they
mean,
had to
But
start playing people for one, so
yeah,
yeah, well, I mean, they held their own with USC, which is not. I mean, they're not great this year, but I mean, they still
USC
held
is
their
one of the
own. So,
biggest disappointments in college football this year too. So
yeah. But I
yeah.
don't know. Personally, I feel like it's been a weird year, in some ways, or in a lot of ways. It's been a kind of a more interesting year than the past couple of years. I feel like
Mhm. I think
just
next
like
year for Colorado, I think they'll be better than this season for sure. They just got to improve that O line because the protection that's
yeah.
given Shadur was awful. So, and they've got to get better at defense because that's what killed them. So,
Defense all around, especially at the front seven, I'd say.
I agree.
But
Who was like the biggest like shocker like team like dark horse team before the season? I was saying Missouri, and I was right about that one. Missouri definitely shocked
yeah,
a lot of people this year, and they was my dark horse team. But
100%. Yeah, because I was kind of there was a point in the middle of the season too, more the beginning where I thought even maybe Kentucky over
mm,
Missouri. Missouri just came out and just was way more dominant and have proven to be way better.
exactly.
I don't know. I agree with me and Gunnar talked a little bit before, and he was kind of saying Washington, and I kind of agree with that
Mm,
too. I mean, I know they had some good years here and there recently, but I mean, they haven't really done anything huge, and no one thought they were going to be like beating Oregon and what or 12-0 now, and
yeah,
you know, so
that is true. What about
and
you,
if they win
Stash?
this
Or,
weekend, then they're gone. So
yeah, yeah. If they win,
yeah,
they're in.
they're going to
So
they're going to the playoffs. So nobody would have thought that Washington would have been there at the end of the
nobody,
day. So,
nobody at all.
I didn't. So
I had
Michael
Miami.
Penix Jr.
I had Miami. I thought if they could learn to kneel the ball, maybe they done something. But that was who I had picked. They were on a roll. They were like 5-0. I was like, man, they are looking good.
they,
They're knocking some people up. Then Georgia Tech rolls around. You can't. And I'm just like, just kneel the ball.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was one of the craziest things I've seen in a
Definitely.
while.
yeah.
Because yeah, they should have won that game for sure. What was the record? They won like what, 7 games?
I think they won 7.
they were undefeated at the time.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
the
I
time
thought that
though,
they were undefeated.
Mhm.
Yeah, they kind of had one of those fall offs too.
I thought for sure
Another.
Florida State and Miami were going to be undefeated when they met, but
Mhm.
I thought it was going to be a little bit
Yeah.
ACC
Well,
rivalry.
I think North Carolina was a huge disappointment too. Like I
Mm,
thought they were gonna
big time.
great man. I thought they were gonna keep on going. They looked strong to start, and then all of a sudden fell off as well. I mean, they're what now? I mean, they're 7-5 or 8-4, something like that.
I
Um,
agree. That's another one. Very
yeah,
shocking, but I don't know. It's really hard to tell preseason like which teams are going to do good versus the teams are not. But of course, besides the powerhouse teams of like Georgia and Michigan and all those teams, um, it's like those mid to good level teams. They could change every year, literally.
yeah.
But
TCU's having one of the biggest downfalls ever. I mean, from being in the national championship game to what even are they this year? I mean, they lost to Colorado. You know,
yeah,
and,
yeah, they did. It's
so
been wild. And I know a big surprising team for me at least was West Virginia. No one was really talking about them this year, but they're 8-4. I did not realize that, but they've got a
yeah.
pretty good team.
No one's talked about West Virginia since Tavon Austin and Geno Smith days, and now
Exactly.
here
Yep.
they are, where it's like, and
Hmm.
they look like they have a potential future coming up as well. They got a lot of young guys, and they got a chance
And
to be a solid team next couple of years.
I couldn't even tell you the name of their quarterback. So,
No,
so I
I
mean,
feel like I've heard they're a younger team, so
oh yeah, for sure. And
and
then I heard that Tua's brother broke the Big Ten all-time passing record at Maryland. So That was something that's
Wow.
been held for several years. And I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but he'll definitely go somewhere. And then Joe Milton, I hyped him up so much. Gunner can testify to that. Uh,
I
I
think
thought he was going
everybody
to be a
hyped him
top.
up.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
I
hyped
can
him up.
testify to that. He was the one telling me way better than Carson Beck, and now look at it. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he
now
was
look
going
at
to
it.
be a top 15 pick just because of his like arm talent alone,
He'll
and
still get
he
drafted in
definitely,
the second round or so, but
yeah,
only because of his arm talent. Just because how good his arm is, because it's a once in a generation talent. But
yeah,
his
Arm big.
decision making is terrible.
hmm
Kind of sounds like an Anthony Richardson situation to me, but you know,
exactly.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
But there's no way Joe Milton goes as high as Anthony Richardson did.
No.
no,
So,
no,
But I don't think anybody expected Anthony Richardson to go that high either.
oh no,
yeah,
the thing that
I
really
didn't think
helped
it.
him was the combine.
Yeah.
That really
Yes.
impressed a lot of people. But I think Joe will probably go like around 4 or 5, probably 5, if I'm being real. It just depends on
I think somebody
what
will
teams
pick
are
him
looking
up pretty
for.
early
I don't know
Yeah.
about 5.
that wants to take a risk on him.
You don't think he'll go that
I
far?
wouldn't drop him all the way down to 5. I don't think he'll drop that far. I think he'll be drafted in the first 3.
Really?
But yeah, somebody will take a risk on him. He is a very good quarterback in the right system. Heupel's system is too complex for him. He can't make the right
Yeah.
decisions whenever he needs to. And
And
like watching him on TV, you don't see that. But whenever I went to that Texas A&M game, you saw it so much. You would have a receiver running wide open down the field, and he would just not even look that direction. So
I mean, the
it's
ball
just one of them things.
placement, yeah, it's just the ball placement is the worst thing. His IQ of where he puts the ball is just not good at all.
No.
But yeah,
It
maybe
don't matter
he'll
if
go
you
to a
throw
right
the
team that
mile.
you can utilize him.
You know, it don't matter if you can throw it a mile if you can't put it within a 10-yard wide bucket. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
but
But what'd you think about Jordan Travis as your stash? I know you're a big FSU guy.
I'm not a big FSU guy. How many times have we been over this?
Cheers.
I'm not a Florida State fan. I'm a
Aaron
Gator
loves Memphis.
all the way.
hmm
I mean, I've got a tattoo, but that don't mean anything.
Yeah. So, what'd you think about the disappointing Florida game versus Florida State? They almost had them, so close.
First half, I thought we were golden. I'm like, okay, we're about to knock them out because my dad was talking smack, and I was like, no, that's not. I'm like, you're talking smack. It may not go in your favor. You may jinx it, but the second half they turned
Yeah.
it around and ended up sealing the game. I think it would have been a very different game if Jordan Travis hadn't snapped his leg. So
Yeah, I agree. Their backup quarterback is not very good, and he doesn't compare to what Jordan Travis can do on the field. But I know Sam thinks they're a little bit overrated, so I know Gunner does
I
too.
think that they're highly overrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're pretty overrated. I mean, I think they were in close games week after week with 5-7 and 6-6 and at best 7-5 teams. They were playing really trashy teams in the ACC. No offense to the ACC, but just not as strong this year. And they were having really close games week after week. And that was with Jordan Travis. And now without him, my biggest concern right now is somehow, some way they're going to beat Louisville, and then next thing you know, they're in the playoffs and they're going to get smoked by 40. You know, I mean, kind of like a TCU in the national championship game last year. It's
Mm.
going to end up like that because they don't have Jordan Travis, and they've got a few good guys on defense, but I just don't think they're going to hold their own against another
See, I agree with
powerhouse.
Sam. I think that they're almost there, but they're not there yet. I don't think that they're good enough to compete with the Michigans or Georgia or Bama or Ohio State or any of them teams. I think if you put them in the ring with them, it's going to be a massacre.
I just want to. TCU did win in the playoffs last year. Let's not
Yeah.
let's
They
not
did
throw
win
that
in the
out of the way. They did
Yeah.
win the playoff game
Oh,
to
I'm
go.
aware.
I'm not saying they belong there. TCU did not belong in that game, but they did earn a spot.
Oh no, I wasn't meaning that TCU didn't belong. I was just saying it was going to be a similar type game. Now, if we're talking about like didn't belong, we should be talking back in days with or Oklahoma whenever they were getting in the playoffs early on. But I'm just saying like I'm not saying TCU didn't belong there. They beat Michigan. They belonged in that game, but or I guess, but I'm just saying it's going to be that type of game if Florida State gets in. They're going to lose by 50.
Oh no, if they get in, I do think they'll lose. But like I think that's a big factor because Jordan Travis isn't there. Because they have a backup. That's great, but
Yeah.
he's not Jordan Travis. He's not making the decisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I meant without Jordan Travis, it's going to be a massacre. But
Mm.
There's a good possibility of it.
They still got one of the best receivers in college football, though, Keon Coleman. Him and
They do, but it don't matter if you can't get him the ball.
I was
I mean,
just
at
about
the
to
end of
say,
the day, it don't matter if you don't have a quarterback who can throw him the ball.
Exactly. I know. Yeah, they play Louisville this Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see if they can beat those guys. Because Louisville's going to be amped up
Yeah.
after a loss to Kentucky. So
Me and
Or
Sam were talking.
down.
I'll pick Louisville to win that game. I think Louisville will win that game. I think it'll be close, but I think Louisville will win that game.
yeah,
I
another
keep
kind of.
but or go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to deviate from that. You can go ahead and finish.
I was just gonna say I keep betting against Florida State, but somehow, some way they keep pulling it off. So I think somehow, some way they pull it off, and then we've got them in the playoffs. But
Get in the playoffs. Go Seminoles.
no,
Oh man. Oh, the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs stole that from Florida State. I'm pretty sure. So the whole chant.
I actually don't know.
Hey,
Because the Braves do it too.
yeah, they do. The Braves
Braves
do.
did do it.
yeah,
Yeah, this copycat league. But another kind of surprising thing is Arkansas. I didn't think they were going to be that bad this year, but they were bad. So
they're real bad.
I mean, KJ Jefferson transferring, they're going to reset that entire team. They just signed Bobby Petrino as their offensive coordinator, who's like 60 years old. So, so I don't know how that's going to go, but Sam Pittman's a good head coach. He's pretty solid. So I think they'll in a couple of years they'll be hovering around 7 or 8 wins or better.
Arkansas is one of them teams though that are like good for maybe a year or two, and then bad for 5 years, and then
Well,
good for
I
a year or
mean,
two, and then bad for 5
yeah.
years.
I mean, 2 years ago they had 9 wins, and now they're going down to below 5. I think they're at 4 wins right now. So just never can tell. But um, we'll go ahead and move on to Heisman predictions. So I'm gonna hear everybody's thoughts on this. My prediction, I'll go ahead and go first. If you asked me 4 or 5 weeks ago, I'd have said Michael Penix Jr., but Jaden Daniels for LSU, I think is gonna win it. He's been going crazy, and yeah, I know his team has lost 3 games, but I think the gap is just so much now. You got to give it to him. So
Yeah, I don't know, 'cause see, the 3-loss thing was a factor last year, like,
yeah,
with quarterbacks or these highly rated people, at different positions all around, it was like, well, their team's lost or they didn't show up in a big game. But this year, there's not really, like, one of these powerhouse undefeated teams that have a super standout star, it's kind of more of a to me, it seems a more all-around team effort, and so I would I agree, I've got them winning it as well, even though LSU's got 3 losses. I've got them winning the Heisman personally, and I would have agreed with the Michael Penix Jr., but I definitely would win
who would
say as
your
well.
who would your other 3 finalists be?
Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel
I,
like that's another thing that's been weird. Was like 3 weeks ago. Other than them two, who's your standout? I mean, obviously Bo Nix, I would say. Um, and I mean, if before he got hurt, I would probably said Jordan Travis.
mm,
But
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
I would put probably Penix Jr. and then it's yeah, you'd have to put Bo Nix in there, I guess. But I don't
For
know. It's
sure.
it's kind of up for debate for that last spot. But yeah, I feel like the running back class this year isn't as deep as years past. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 guys that have had
Yeah.
pretty good years. Um, but
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, it's not been
The
special.
receivers are a lot better this year than they
Yeah,
have been
I
lately.
agree. I agree.
What's that guy from Ohio State? What's his name?
Marvin
Marvin Harrison
Harrison
Harrison.
Jr.
Jr.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he will
Yeah, I
probably
think
be invited.
yeah.
he should be up
But
there. He should be up there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got
Um,
if Penix can beat Oregon, I got him. If he
ooh,
can
I
beat
like
Oregon
it.
this weekend,
I like it.
he will win the Heisman.
Mm,
If not, it's Daniels.
yeah.
But if he can win the Heisman or win that game this weekend, he wins.
I'd like to see Penix Jr. win it. I really would. I think they'll give it to
Considering
Daniel.
his dad played at Tech. Penix's dad
Really?
played at Tech. Yep.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
That's pretty neat. But who do you think it'll be, Stash? Who do you think for the Heisman?
So my pick is I think Bo Nix is going to beat Washington. I think he's going, and it's going to push him up.
I've been saying the same thing.
I think Bo Nix wins it. I got Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
as my runner up, and my third place is not Daniels. I got JJ McCarthy at 3, and the reason hold on. Let me get hold on. You know he like hasn't even played all 4 quarters in games this year. Just to throw that out, like he has not. He sat on the bench because they're blowing teams out. I think he's underrated.
That's more of a team
But I
thing,
mean,
though. The Heisman voters don't care about
No,
that.
no, no. What I'm saying though is like when I'm looking at these QBs and these players, I'm looking at the fact that they're getting so far ahead in a lot of these games that he just gets to sit on the bench for a quarter, not even play a fourth quarter. I'm like, what would his stats be if he's playing those?
yeah, but I think they do care about stats overall because I mean, like,
they do.
I don't know, and
They also
I don't
care
know. I
about
don't
wins and
think
losses too, though.
in their win against Penn State, what did he throw the ball? 6 times, 8 times? I mean, you can't win the Heisman when you throw the
They
ball.
were making a point in that game. Like Penn State's defense, we're going to run it down your throat.
I mean, I know I get that, but I'm just saying, like, you can't win the Heisman with that. Personally, I think. I mean, like, if you look at Carson Beck, even dude's had what 5 300-yard games, and he's had like 6 of them were like 250 and up or whatever, or like 6 of the other ones or whatever. And so, I mean, he's been Mr. Consistent. Had very little interceptions. He's been very good, but he's not getting any recognition. And I mean, I think that just goes along with JJ McCarthy. I think there's 2 good quarterbacks who aren't going to get the recognition that they need, but it's just the Heisman voters, they care about stats. They want to see stats. They want to see you doing spectacular plays. Like everybody talks about what was their Heisman moment, like Burrow had his against Georgia in the SEC championship almost.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just like Heisman moments. I feel like neither of those guys have done something that's like, holy crap, this is a Heisman. So
I think he's played incredible personally, but I've got Michigan's the team I think is just going to win it all. That's how I look at it. I think I got it on lock.
Hey, I've been telling them too. Michigan's the most complete team.
They are.
happening.
Michigan is the 49ers right now. That's what they are. They're just the best.
And the 49ers ain't winning it all either, so.
We'll see. They've got when healthy, they've got the best team.
I know.
Yeah, well, Georgia has the best team, so in my opinion, we've been healthy maybe all of about.
Yeah, a lot of people have been advocating for this guy to at least be a Heisman finalist the last few weeks. Jalen Milroe for Bama. I don't see it because the first like 4 to 5 games of the season, he played awful, and he didn't even play in like a game or 2. So
he got benched against South Florida.
He got benched.
So
yep.
I don't think he has a shot.
Yeah, Heisman didn't get benched one game,
No.
Yeah, no.
But we'll go ahead and move on to the next discussion, everybody. So we're going to dive into each Power 5 conference championship game. We'll start off with the best conference in college football, the SEC. So we're going to go ahead and go prediction of that game. Alabama taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. Sam, who do you have in that one?
Well, I'm a Georgia fan, so clearly I've got. But I'm gonna go. I'm honestly not scared of it. About it. Like I think everybody's over here saying Bama's gonna beat them. Bama's gonna shock the world. Bama's gonna cause a lot of chaos. I get it. I love the idea of chaos. I just don't see it happening. Personally, I don't think Jalen Milroe is the savior that Bama fans think that he is. I think he's good, but he's not great. I don't think he's got what it takes to beat Georgia. Personally, I think Georgia's got a couple bust up defense plays on the first drive of each game, but then after that they make adjustments. And I think Kirby Smart's going to know how to prepare for Jalen Milroe. I've got Georgia winning, and I don't even think it's going to be that close. I've got something like 31-31, 31-17, something like that.
Oh, okay. I like it. What do you think about it, Gunna?
I want 2 SEC teams in the tournament, and the only way for that to happen is for Bama to win. So I got Bama, and I think it's going to be a close one, 17-21.
Okay.
So I'm taking Bama.
A little upset there brewing. Okay, I like it. Who do you have, Stash, in the SEC clash?
I got Georgia, and I don't think it's gonna be close. I don't think
Mm.
Alabama's looked that good at all year. So I'm taking 42-24.
Ooh,
Yeah,
domination.
I just don't think they're that good. Like they just
I can
have
see
not
it.
been that good all year. I think they're very overrated this season, and it's just people are clinging to the past. They're not looking at this season alone, like thinking Alabama's just such an unstoppable force. You're not. I'm sorry, you're very beatable, and if your quarterback gets benched against like South Florida, like what are you doing? Nick Saban,
Exactly.
I thought he'd have it figured out by like week 2. No, they don't. I don't think they still have it figured out that well.
Oh, that's a little hot take, a
And
little
it's
spicy. I think the quarterback play is fine, but the overall team play is not. It's too inconsistent. So my championship pick, I'm going Georgia will beat Bama. I think it's going to be closer than what both of you guys think. I think it'll be 28-21. I think Georgia beats them by 7. And they start slow early, like they have all year, but they finish the deal in the second half. So I've got Bama losing by 7 in that one. So that's my prediction. We'll go
Gunner being
ahead
the only
and
pick. to get the dogs.
do what now?
I said
If
Gunner
I'm
being
right,
the only pick.
though, I'm
to
a
get the
genius.
dogs.
If I'm
Yeah,
right, though, I'm a genius.
that is true.
Uh,
We'll see about it. 3-1. We got Georgia over Bama. So we'll go ahead and move on to the Big Ten matchup. So we've got Iowa taking on Michigan. I've got Michigan winning this one 42
Yeah,
to 3. I think it's gonna be a blowout. I don't see it. I don't see
I
Iowa standing a chance.
I agree. I've got no contest here. I think Michigan's gonna roll right through them. I don't. I mean, I do agree. They're an amazing team. I don't think they're the best team, but I do think they're an amazing team. And I think Iowa's got a strong defense,
Yep.
but they ain't got anything for offense. So I think Iowa puts up 7 at most, and Michigan's going to put up about 30. So somewhere around there.
Mm.
I got Michigan, of course. I think Michigan will be having their starters on the bench in the fourth quarter, and they're going to get an extra quarter of rest for the playoffs.
Oh, I
So
like
it's
it.
going to be bad.
Oh yeah. What about you, Stash?
I also have the Wolverines winning. 45 to
We got the
7.
horns.
45 to 7.
Okay.
I think it's just gonna be massacring. Michigan's like to run up the score all year. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it this game too.
Yeah. Do we believe they should be in the playoff though?
Michigan.
because of their because of their scandal going on right now.
My personal opinion on this, I don't think
Mhm.
Hargrave should have got suspended, but I do think they should not be college playoff eligible next year.
Mm.
That's my
Next
thought.
year?
Yeah, yeah,
Next year.
yeah.
If it comes out that it is true, pending the investigation, then he needs to be. They need to have some form of punishment.
They do need a punishment. If
So
he's found guilty,
I agree
punishment.
with that. I
Jared's
agree
trying to
with
stir the pot.
him missing
He
the
knows my
playoffs.
opinion, but my opinion is, yeah, I think Michigan should not be in the playoffs this year. And I understand there's maybe not foolproof or whatever, but I mean, I swear, I mean, how do you have this many allegations in a 2-year span, and he just keeps getting off the hook with sit at home for 3 weeks and you're right back with your team? I think they shouldn't be in the playoffs, but I mean, it's gonna happen. So what I say doesn't matter. So they'll be in it.
Hear me out. If say Michigan stayed out of it and your Bulldogs won the championship, there would always be the what if. What if they played Michigan?
And I mean, I guess I get that, but if Michigan somehow beats Georgia, I'm gonna be like cheaters. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. No,
Oh
but
man.
no, I don't know. I just think it's kind of if it's true, I think it's like completely unfair and kind of even takes away from their season in general as well. And then if they does come out as true and they won it, then people are gonna be like, well, that sucks because they shouldn't have won it because they cheated. So
Mm. I guess I'm the lone wolf in this one. I won't touch on it though. We'll move on. So we'll go ahead and move on to we've got the Big 12 championship game. We've got Texas taking on Oklahoma State. I'll go ahead with this one. I've got Texas. I don't think it'll be a blowout. Oklahoma State's been looking really good the last couple of weeks. I think I've got Texas winning by a last second field goal, 28-24. I think they'll, well, I'll say 28-25. 28-25. They're tied at 25. They kick a game winning field goal at the very end. It'll be closer than what people think. I don't think it'll be a blowout by Texas at all. But
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I'm taking Oklahoma State because they are one of the
Ooh.
hottest teams in the country right now, and I think that they'll win on a last second field goal, 31-28.
Personally, I don't know. It's another one of those situations where it's like, to me, Texas and Florida State, I'm like, they're in close games every single week. They're barely beating teams they should be blowing out. And I'm like, I keep betting against them, keep saying they're going to lose this game. And somehow, some way, they always pull it off. So deep down inside, I think they're going to pull it off. But I've got Oklahoma State as well. I've got Oklahoma State winning in a close game. And I think it'll be I'm going to say 31-28. So.
okay.
I am also taking Oklahoma State.
What?
Yes, I'm taking Oklahoma State. I'm taking a
what?
23-21 score. I think it's going to be, there's going to be little highlights to play, but most of it's going to be very defensive. I think it's going to be one in the trenches, if I'm being 100% real. I just have OKC. They're all, OKC, Oklahoma State, because they're just on a roll, and I think they're going to continue to it. I think Texas is a little overrated, personally. I think, they beat Bama by, 7. It wasn't, a huge win, and I was saying back then, Alabama does not look like the Alabama of the past. So I'm taking Oklahoma State in a 23-21 victory.
All right. Everybody but me is taking Texas. Oklahoma State. Y'all three are taking Oklahoma State. I'm taking Texas. I'm the lone wolf again on that one. So we'll see what happens with that one, but we'll go ahead and move on to the ACC championship game. We got Louisville taking on Florida State. I think y'all already know my position on this. I'm going Florida State on this one, even without their star quarterback Jordan Travis. I think it'll be pretty close. I don't think it'll come down to a last second field goal. It'll be 28-20, 21. I've got Florida State in this one. Defense comes up big in this one. I think Jared Verse is the best college football edge player on the D line.
Yeah, he's solid. I think I'm going Louisville because I'm praying that they win. Because me being a Bulldogs fan, if Louisville somehow wins, I think Georgia's almost sworn in. But I'm gonna say Louisville. I think it's gonna be a close game because somehow, some way, Florida State's gonna try to pull it off, but I don't think it's happening this time. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be a lower scoring game. I'm gonna say it's gonna be something like 20-17.
I like it.
I got Louisville as well because I think Florida State's one of the most overrated teams in the country. So,
Yep.
And I know Florida beat Tennessee this year, but Florida's also not that good a team, and they should have beat Florida State. If you take away 2 plays, they should have beat Florida State. So I'm taking Louisville 21-14.
I'm taking Florida State with the exact same score, 28-21. I agree. Florida State's a little different, though, because it is a big rivalry game down there. It is going to look a little differently because we all know rivalry games play very differently than just regular scheduled games. So, but I think that was a big factor as well without Jordan Travis, too. But I do think they're going to squeak out this one. I do think they make the playoffs. I just think they will get eliminated in the first round is my guess. But I think it's going to be 28-21 Florida State over Louisville.
I like it. We're definitely divisive right here, 2-2 on the ACC championship game. So we'll move on to the last.
This one I'm excited to see.
This is the most exciting one in my opinion. We got the Pac-12 championship. Oregon Ducks taking on the Washington Huskies. So I'll be the last one to do this one. Sam, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I would love to kick it off because I think Bo Nix is gonna go in there and wax them boys. I mean, not really, but I think I've got it's hard to beat the same team twice.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, look at Georgia and Bama in the past. Whenever they played each other twice in a season, usually it goes 1-1. And so I think personally, I think Oregon's gonna win this. I think Dan Lanning's gonna be able to prepare for him. You know, he was a former assistant to Kirby Smart, and I've got Bo Nix coming out and showing why he should be a definite top Heisman contender. I think I've got them winning 35-24.
I like it. Pretty bold, but it could happen. We'll see. Like you said though, it's hard to beat a team twice. So
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it, Stash? Who do you think? Who do you got in this one?
I'm taking the Heisman winner, Bo Nix. and the Oregon Ducks. I think they're going to win.
Mm.
I don't like. I like your point, Sam. It's hard to beat a team twice, but like also Oregon got to run. They got to scheme for him. They got to prep for him the first game, and they found out what didn't work then. So now they're going to have a better idea what to do against Michael Penix Jr. So I'm taking.
100%.
This isn't going to be like super like blowout, but I'm taking 25-17 Oregon.
Okay. I like it. What do you think about it, Gunnar? Who do you have in this one?
I'm taking Washington.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I think Penix is the Heisman winner as long as he can win this game, and I think he is going to win this game. These are both two high-powered offenses, and I'm going to take them, Washington, 48-42. It's going to be a shootout to the end.
High scoring. I mean, the last matchup was pretty high scoring as well, so that's a valid take. I like it a lot. So I'm gonna be the deciding factor here. I'm gonna even up this selection with I'm taking Washington 2-2 with our selections here. So I think it'll be a little bit more high scoring than previous matchup. I'll say I'm gonna go ahead and say 35-31 Washington. I think it comes down to Washington's defense is slightly better than Oregon's, I feel like. So both
I
teams have
agree.
great both teams have great offenses, but when it comes down to it, the defense that has the best team, I mean, they got to make a play when it matters most. So I think that'll be the Huskies, and Michael Penix Jr. could win the Heisman after that performance. So we'll have to wait and see. But to counterclaim Stash's argument about Bo Nix and the Ducks, they know what Michael Penix Jr. is going to do in that offense. Same thing goes with Bo Nix and them Ducks. I mean, that defense for Washington is going to be amped up. So I've got Washington winning this one, but I think it could be it'll be a really good game. Must watch TV.
This game could determine our Heisman winner.
Yeah,
Possibly.
I think it will determine the Heisman winner.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, I agree.
on the votes. On the votes.
All right, we'll go ahead. Who was y'all's in opinion? Who was the biggest sleeper this season, like team wise? Mine was Missouri. I think Missouri was the biggest kind of dark horse sleeper team that kind of broke out this year.
I think I'm gonna hop on the train with Missouri, and I think they should not have lost to LSU. And I think they should be a lost team, but they're the highest rated 2-loss team in the country right now, and I think for very good reason. I did not think they were gonna be that good. I thought they were a good team, and midway through the season I was like, don't sleep on Missouri, but I meant that as like they're still gonna end up 8-4. I didn't think they were gonna be this good. So
Yeah,
but I've got Missouri.
it's kind of like Tennessee was last year. High-powered offense, not a very good defense. I mean, they have a decent defense, but their offense is the show of their team. But what's your thoughts on a Stash? Who was the most surprising team?
A team I didn't think about much before the season started, but they actually did impress me was Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I didn't like I don't normally think, oh man, Ole Miss is going to be great this year, personally, but they did really shock me. I mean, they're ranked 11th right now, and they're 10-2. Like they had like the game they did play against Bama. It was really close for the majority of the game.
Yeah, but
Until they pulled away in the late fourth. But yeah, that is true. I mean, I read something where it said Ole Miss has the opportunity to win 11 games for the first time, I think, in over 30 years for the program. So, I mean, that's big time. So, we'll have to wait and see about that. But that's a good selection. I like it. But what do you think about it, Gunnar? Do what?
I was gonna say I think my only separation between a team like Ole Miss and Missouri is like Missouri lost both their losses were closer games, and they put up a 4-quarter fight against Georgia, whereas Ole Miss lost 52-17. So that's the only reason why I would say Ole Miss is like I think I would agree with that though. They've definitely been a sleeper, but at the same time they've shown they're kind of not the best at times.
That's fair.
I was thinking of Washington because I didn't think that they were that good last year, but I just looked up their record from last year and they were 11-2 last year. I did not know that. So they were relevant last year. Just didn't realize it because nobody keeps up with the Pac-12 in the South. So
No
But
longer.
really, it is Missouri is the shocker team because they just came out and they dominated almost every single game. So
Exactly.
the only game that they really looked bad was Georgia, and that's just because Georgia is the team. So
I wouldn't even say they look bad. I'd say they put up a fight in a sense. You know, I mean,
y'all made them
they had
look
me.
the worst that they have looked all year.
I mean, I
They
could,
didn't play good
you know,
against LSU either, I guess. But
I think LSU they lost that game at home. I think, and it was a shootout until late in the fourth quarter. But I think that was just they choked. Personally, I think if those two teams met up again today, Missouri's going to win by 2-3 touchdowns.
I agree. Yeah.
But
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next. We'll transition. So, little debate here. Who is the better receiver, do you think? Marvin Harrison Jr. or Keon Coleman?
I'm gonna go Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, I think the dude's been a stud for the past 3 years. I think, and it's kind of like last year when they asked the NFL scouts about him, and they were like, it's kind of looking like at next year's Lambo, or next year's Ferrari. It's like you want it, but you can't have it yet because it's not available until the next year. Like they were saying, like he is a stud. He's really good. I think he's gonna go really high in the draft. I think his numbers are also a lot better, especially over his career. So I'd say he's the better receiver in my opinion.
Mm,
I'd agree with Sam. I think that he is the best receiver in the country. I'm a Titans fan, and if we drafted him, I'd be as happy as I can be. Problem is, we ain't gonna draft him. We'll draft another offensive lineman, but he he will be one of the top picks in the draft. He is
no.
the best receiver in the country.
I think he's potentially one of the best players in the country. So
Oh, that's
I'd put him up there.
for
So
sure.
yeah,
What do you think about his stash?
I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. If I could pick a person for my team to draft, I'd pick in Marvin Harrison Jr. First round, I want Marvin Harrison Jr. more than I want like any other. Like there's a lot of QBs. Like this draft is excellent for QBs. You could get a QB
Oh,
in the
for
second
sure.
round for sure. A good QB in the second round. Marvin Harrison is like a generational talent. He is phenomenal. Like
Mm,
I want him drafted to the Tampa. He could replace Mike Evans. I'll gladly take it.
yeah.
I like Coleman, but like when it comes the comparison, like we look at Marvin Harrison Jr. like a Heisman candidate. Coleman's really good, but I wouldn't put him in the Heisman candidate.
Mm,
I think Coleman will be excellent if he gets drafted and finds the right team. He could be great, but like there's a lot more odds of Marvin Harrison Jr. being the guy than Coleman.
yeah.
yeah.
I guess I'm the odd man out. I'm going Keaton. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. Y'all thought I was going to pick him, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is easily the best college receiver right now. I will say this though. I think Keon Coleman is going to have a better NFL career. I really do. Just because he's got more athletic upside. He's a freak of nature, 6'4", and he returns punts. There's a lot of scouts saying that he could be an elite punt returner. At that speed and size, he reminds me a lot of Randy Moss. I'm not going to say he's going to be the production of Randy Moss, but just the size and the speed looks uncanny. Looks like Julio Jones, more recent comparison. Uh, but I would say Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely the best college receiver currently, for sure. But we'll go ahead
I
and move
think
on.
Marvin Harrison Jr. could put on a team right now, and he would do good in the NFL. Coleman, he'll be good in a year or two. He needs to adjust, but Marvin Harrison Jr. You can throw him in, and he'll be a
Yeah,
good rookie receiver.
I could agree with that. I think Keon's ceiling might be higher, but Harrison Jr. You plug him in, like you said, he's going to go out there and shine early. So,
Yo, can I add in a quick other topic real quick?
yeah.
Okay, y'all's opinions. Who do y'all think? Take stats out. Take Heisman odds. Take all that junk out. Take not this season alone, but like who do y'all think is the best player in the country this year? Or not? I mean, like who's the best player in all of college football? All around best guy.
Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm
Oh,
taking him. Like I don't know if I would pick anyone over him. Like right now,
who?
Yeah,
Who you taking?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
I, I think he's up there. I personally think Brock Bowers, and I know that's because I'm a Georgia fan, and it's going to sound like that, but I think I mean, you see what he did whenever he came back. They were like trying to triple coverage the guy because he's a stud, but he also is an insane blocker. No one ever gives tight ends credits for their blocking, I feel like. But I mean, he's an insane blocker, and he changes the whole entire other, like, whenever he's on the field, that defense plays completely different than that defense would play when he's not on the field. And so I think even his freshman year, he looked like one of the top players in all the country. But I think he's overall, granted, he was out. He's missed what, 4 games this year,
Or yeah, I believe.
4 or 5, I think, because he just missed his passing against Georgia Tech as well. And so his stats haven't been what they could have been. But I think he's the best player in all of college football.
I like that. If I had to say one player, I would have to agree with you. I think it'd be Brock Bowers. When it comes down to it, you could argue he's the most dominant player in all of college. Whenever he's on the field, I mean, he's a freak of nature. I mean, he's getting comparisons to Travis Kelce, um, coming out like he'll be a top 5 pick in the draft in April. So he is electric on the field whenever, and he's a good blocker too. So I
You
think
said
he's
top
probably a
5?
better. Huh?
Say he's going top 5?
Oh yeah, he'll be a top 5 pick.
He should. I think he definitely should.
Yeah, dude.
Tight
If
ends
you look,
rarely ever
if you
go
look
top
at
5.
teams,
Yeah,
teams,
that's what I'm
no,
saying.
no.
Top 5, like if you wanted to say top 10, I could get that. I could understand top 10 if you wanted to say top 10.
Mhm.
But like we've talked about this draft class a lot,
Yeah.
right? We've like he's great, but he's not a Heisman candidate. People aren't looking at him like that. Guys, and like
Well, I mean,
and
he
I
missed a
understand
lot of games.
he is, and
I
But
do
it's
think if he wouldn't have missed any games, he would be at the Heisman. I don't know if he
That's
would
what I
have
was
won
gonna
it, but
say.
he
I think
would be
too,
there.
the NFL, the top 5 teams in the NFL or their picks don't go based off of Heisman candidates. Some Heisman candidates can fall down to like number 20. I think what they're not
Derrick
looking
Henry
at
went
is,
second round
yeah.
right after
I
he won the
mean,
Heisman. He went second round to the Titans, and he won the Heisman the year before that. So
so I think he's a top 5 pick easily. I think if he did have this full season, he was on a roll. His first few games, he had like 200 yards in each game and 2 touchdowns in each game. And if he would have kept that up as a tight end, he'd have been in the Heisman. Oh, that's for sure. But
I'm just thinking about like, and you all, but look in the draft too. It's what you need, and like, I mean, that's
yeah, I know.
like, and it is,
that's a big thing.
yeah.
There's nobody in the top 5 that needs
Yeah.
a tight end.
Yeah.
They need players
Uh,
before a tight end.
I could think of a couple teams that could maybe the Bears. I mean, there's a
That
couple
need
of
Their
one
tight
couple
end
of
is
person.
them.
They
top
need
5 in
another
almost every category. Komet,
Do what?
he's like top 5 in tight ends in almost every category.
Usually more than one team. They have 2 tight ends that produce at a high level now in this day and age. Because you got to
But
have.
they need other positions before they need a tight end. Is what we're trying to
I
say.
mean,
Is that they need
They need another wide
other
receiver.
spots filled.
you look at this though. He's more than just a tight end. He could be used at a receiver. He's very versatile.
He's a Gronk, is what he is. I mean, like that's a high comparison, but he is another Gronk. He will be another Gronk.
I mean, I think the level that they're holding him to is so high, and I think he will go top 5 just because of the scouts and the executives, um, just evaluating his talent level and production tied together. I mean, I mean, you got to look at you got to look at where the teams are picking too. Like that's yet to be determined, so that's a big factor.
I mean, that's fair, but like, I mean, some of the picks are basically already determined.
I mean, yeah. Caleb Williams said he might not come back, or he might not go to the draft. He might come back next year.
I
So
think
we'll
that'll
see.
hurt him very much if he doesn't go this year. I think it'll hurt
I
him.
think he already hurt himself a lot. He's
Like in the latest
I'll be
mock
damned before I
draft.
let national TV and scouts see me crying in my mama's arms after a loss. There's no way. No way. I don't know. I think he should have. I don't know what he should have done. He couldn't have left last year, but I think it wouldn't hurt him to come back. It might help him because he really hasn't had that good a year this year.
I've heard he's falling a little bit, slightly in the draft stock. So if I was him, I would come back for another year. I'd run it back and see if he can do better. But that defense is gonna have to do better. Because if they let up 45 points a game, you ain't gonna win more than 6 games.
Sure.
But all right, we'll go ahead and move on to the last segment of the day, everybody. What is your playoff predictions? 1 through 4. I'll let the stash start here. Selection Sunday. Who do you have?
Selection Sunday.
Yeah. 1 through 4. What's your playoff prediction?
I think Michigan
Mhm.
1, Georgia 2, Oregon 3, Florida State 4.
Ooh. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go. I like that. I'm gonna go with Gunner here next.
I got Georgia at 1,
Hmm.
Michigan at 2, and then Washington at 3. Much as I hate to say it, even though that I picked against them, I think Florida State will scoot by and get in at 4. Even though that it'll be a mess.
Well, I just said,
Georgia and
I was
Florida
say you
State.
said Georgia was going to lose to Bama, so how would that put them at 1? You know.
I did. I know. I was hopeful. I'm hopeful. But if I went by my picks, it would be Michigan at 1, Georgia at 2, Washington, and then Bama at 4.
Ooh.
But I don't
Okay.
think that will happen.
I
But
just-
that's the hot take right there. That's the hot take right there.
You think?
I think that the committee will do whatever it takes to keep 2 SEC schools from getting
You
in
think
in
that
the
would hold
last
out?
year of the
You
14.
think Texas wouldn't get in over Bama? They won head to head.
No, because I think Texas is going to lose. I think Texas will lose to Oklahoma State. So
There's a lot
they're
of
not getting in.
You could
there's
get
a lot of There's a lot of different
There's a lot of
scenarios.
ifs that have to happen.
you could get like
There's a lot
4
of
ifs.
SEC schools next year.
There'll probably be more than that.
But like that, just for example, like a third of like the playoff next year could be SEC teams.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very possible. It probably will happen.
Like your Final Four could really break down to all 4 SEC schools.
It could.
Possibly.
I think the way that they're going to do it next year, though, is that the top 4 are the conference winners. So it's going to be SEC, Big Ten, and Pac-12, and
Those guys should
What's
get
the
bye
other one?
weeks. That's who
Well,
should
the
get
Pac-
bye weeks.
The Pac-12 is no more. They got rid of the conference.
oh well, there
So-
goes that idea then.
Yeah, they'll be
ACC.
yeah, ACC. They'll be
um,
I hate that the Pac-12 getting destroyed. I mean, they've got to join different conferences and the demographic that does not make sense at all.
Money.
But yeah, it's all about the money. Yeah, that is true.
Well,
So for my prediction, number 1, I've got Georgia. Number 2, I've got Michigan. 3, I've got Washington. And 4, I've got Florida State. And number 5 and 6, I've got 5 Texas and 6 Oregon. So
The 2 losers.
really? So you got Oregon losing, having 2 losses, and being at 6 over Ohio State?
hmm
Well, I mean, the committee's got Ohio State at 6 right now.
that is true. But I mean, you think about
Their
strength of
Oregon would
schedule.
drop below.
Well, Oregon's strength of
No.
schedule isn't very good either, too. So I could see Oregon
the
dropping
only
down to
team that they've
7.
played is Washington.
I could see Ohio
The-
State 6 actually, and then 7 be Oregon if they lose.
Well, all right. So the only thing is I've learned over the years from being a Georgia fan, I've had to study how the community thinks because it's bonkers in my opinion half the time. I think it's pretty crazy. But also, you got to look at you were talking about Alabama and Texas head to head. I get it. Texas beat Bama. But the way the committee thinks is that was early season. I mean, that was early season. They think teams develop over the years as they go. Think about Auburn. They were going to be the first 2-loss team in the playoffs because they lost those teams early in 2017 and they went on to win and got really hot and everybody was like they were the hottest team in all of college football. They beat they beat Georgia, then they beat Bama, and the committee had them at 2 with 2 losses. The committee had them at 2 in 2017 until Georgia beat them in the SEC championship and they dropped out. So in that aspect, if Bama somehow, some way beats Georgia, they're putting Bama in over Texas because they're going to say that Bama developed a year and got better. I mean, you're looking at, early on a quarterback that everybody's saying struggled, got benched, and then now everybody's saying like maybe you should be talked about in the Heisman, which I don't agree with, but I'm just saying he's developed over the years well, and so they're going to put Bama in over Texas, and they only dropped Ohio State down to 6. So, I mean, they've still got Ohio State above Texas. So it could be a situation where if a lot of chaos happens this upcoming weekend, that Ohio State gets in as that second Big Ten team. kind of like how that year when Georgia and Bama didn't play in their conference championship, but they got in. So, but my prediction is Georgia 1, Michigan 2. I'm very similar to Stash, but I've got Florida State at 3 and Oregon at 4. And then right outside, I got 5 being Ohio State and 6 being Texas.
I like it.
I take Ohio State at 5 as well.
That's a good selection. Hypothetically, what's the percentage chance of this happening? Where a world where Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon get in the playoffs, all three.
You know what? Let's throw Alabama in the mix too while we're at it.
It happens by Bama beating Georgia, Oregon beating
Washington.
Yeah.
And Florida State losing.
Yeah.
Florida State losing and
Texas winning.
Texas winning.
I think Texas has to dominate. I don't think they just have to win. I think they have to dominate.
Yeah, because how much you lose by determines where you fall. Like Michigan, Ohio State was a close game through and through. That's why they only fell 2 spots. They didn't really fall way back because it was just such a close game against a rival and a top school in the country. And
I agree.
So
it's not just how you lose, it's how you win. Something I've been trying to preach to Jared for a while now, because he's riding high on that Florida State train, and I'm like, buddy, they don't ever win big. But, you've got to show your dominance throughout the year. So I think it's not just also how you lose, it's how you win and how you face top-rated teams and how your wins are against top-rated teams. One thing that I think Georgia's got riding for them right now is they've got the win over Missouri, which is the highest-ranked 2-loss team in the country, and then they've got the win over Ole Miss, which is 11 right now, and they beat them by 35. A potential top 10 team when it's all said and done, and they beat them by 35. So I think that shows their dominance, and that's also why, too, if Bama beats them, and there's a lot of situations where a lot of chaos can go on, but I think the committee could have a hard time choosing between an undefeated Florida State and a 1-loss Georgia.
Yeah.
So
I was really thinking, what's the realistically percentage chance of Georgia making the playoffs if they have a 1 loss and everybody else wins out? That are in the
Washington wins out.
Washington wins. Michigan wins.
Florida State wins.
Florida State wins.
Texas wins.
Oh, that's
Texas
the situation
wins.
I'm talking. That's the situation I'm talking about though, because I think that puts if Bama were to win, it goes back to the how do they win? Did they win in an overtime game or do they beat Georgia by 14?
The point
you know what I mean?
differential, yeah.
So if they beat Georgia by 14, then it becomes Michigan 1, it becomes Washington 2, I guess Bama 3, and then it's between Florida State and Georgia at that point. And heck, Ohio State, throw them in the mix. It's between those 3 teams. So then it's like
if Michigan loses to Iowa, they'll fall drastically, though.
Yeah, if Michigan loses, they're not having a Big Ten team in the playoff this year.
No.
If they lose, there's no way a Big Ten is getting in.
And I don't think it's going to happen. I predicted the score is going to be 35-7. But I have been saying I want Iowa to shock the world this upcoming weekend. I think it would be just mass chaos for Iowa to win.
It could happen. Like college football is so crazy. You never know. I remember watching the Appalachian Michigan game like 2006 or something. I remember the block field goal return for a touchdown to beat Michigan. It was crazy. Everybody lost it. That's a memory that everyone still remembers because of it. So this could be, it could have a moment like that this week. In any 4 of those games.
It could. Any game, yeah. That's what I love about college football.
I don't think it matters if Georgia wins or loses. I think they're in. I don't think it, because they have dominated on pretty much everybody that they played. They're undefeated. They're not going to keep them out over 1 game. If it's close. Now, if somehow if Bama blows them out, then they're not going to get in. But if it's close and they lose by, say, 7 or 3 points, they're in.
Yeah, or even if it's an overtime game or anything like that. Yeah. I think kind of I can't remember who the other person was, but Paul Feinbaum.
I've got Georgia winning that game. I think they're going to dominate. I just don't like Alabama this year. And I think people are trying to justify Alabama too heavily. I'm not for it. Your time has come, your time is gone. You're like Nick Saban. Like, I mean, if it continues like this and they start missing a couple of bowl games, I wouldn't be shocked if he retires the next 5 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought he was going to retire even sooner than it looks like he's going to, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Man's almost 80. I mean, it's about time.
well, they just gave him a contract a season or two ago.
I know.
But
But
it's crazy.
the whole reason why I picked Bama is because of Nick Saban. You still got to remember who's across the field. I mean, Kirby Smart's on the other side, which is the second best coach in the SEC.
I think he's better than him. I think Kirby Smart's better than him. I think he was.
I don't think he's
get
proven it yet. He hasn't been here long enough.
Well, I mean, look at their records side by side on Nick Saban's first years and Kirby Smart's first years. You know, I mean, Kirby Smart's above by a good bit too.
If Georgia three-peats, though, like, it's hard to say that he's not. If they three-peat,
Yeah,
like,
then you got a conversation.
Georgia
And
was
he's won like what, 23 straight now? Is that what it is?
It's like
22 or
we've won
23.
29. We've won 29 straight.
Would Georgia be the first team to
29
three-peat
straight.
ever?
Never mind.
yeah.
First
in the playoff
three-peat.
era. Yeah.
Well, no, even in the last time it happened was I think it was the Gophers back in like the 1930s.
Okay, that doesn't count.
So
Anything,
Yeah, exactly.
Anything before 1960 doesn't matter.
that's what I'm saying. It was back in the days before they even had like the BCS and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a long time ago.
I think like Harvard or Stanford. It's Harvard or Yale has like 4 national titles if we go back far enough.
No, Princeton.
Princeton?
Back in the day was dominant. I think they had 4 national titles in a row
Wow.
or whatever. It was, but that was like 1890s or something.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Before World War One.
So if they three-peat, they're making absolute history.
Oh,
Like, in the making. Like, Georgia was the team I picked at the beginning of the season. I picked them to three-peat because I just felt like they would. Michigan's just at this point in the season, I'm just like, I just think Michigan's the best team. I could be wrong. I want to see Georgia versus Michigan.
Okay, all right. Here's my take on Michigan, though, and tell me I'm wrong, and I'm all ears for me being wrong. But I think, and Jared says this is a wild take. I think Michigan didn't win that game. I think Ohio State lost that game. Let me explain. So the very first reason being is because they had the interception that gave them the ball at the 5-yard line. It was basically a pick 6. So that took away one of their drives and gave Michigan an easy 7. They also missed a field goal. And then the Michigan's second touchdown pass, which put them at 14-0, should have been an interception, in my opinion. I think he did not have firm control in a full 2 steps and athletic move before that guy ripped it out of his hands. So that would have been a turnover. And so that takes the touchdown away from Michigan. I can't think of his name, McCord or whatever. Is it Kyle McCord? If he didn't throw that pick, that was basically a pick 6 and have that dumb moment, then I think and they didn't miss that field goal. I think that game was, if all that would have happened, it would have been, what was it? What did I say it would have been, Jared? 27-16? Something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think Ohio State shot themselves in the foot multiple occasions. I think Michigan showed they're very beatable, personally.
Then I can make the argument that Michigan made their breaks. They made the mistakes happen. So I could make that argument too.
That pick that he threw was a pretty stupid throw. I mean, he
threw it. He threw it. He was under pressure. He threw it. So, like Michigan made a lot of them plays. Michigan's defense is really, really solid.
Yeah.
And their offense can be solid at times, but their defense is – I know Georgia's had the best defense here lately, but Michigan's is up there.
Say, the way you beat Michigan is if you have a very strong secondary, because their offensive line is one of the best in the country. They love to pound the rock. If you've got a good secondary and a decent pass rush, you'll beat them.
Oh, but I mean, does Georgia not have that? You know what I mean? And
but I think just overall, I would take.
I'm not saying that Michigan's going to beat Georgia. I'm saying that Georgia's going to beat them.
I'm just saying I want to see it.
No.
I think Michigan has the most complete team, but I could be wrong. I think Georgia is close. They're like right behind them.
But I'm not kidding.
What's going to hurt Michigan is that they haven't been there before. Georgia has.
But in the past time that Georgia played Michigan, we dominated. But But another thing too is I'm not kidding when I say Georgia's been healthy for 2 quarters. Literally, we've had Brock Bowers out for 5 games. We've had Lad McConkey out and he's our best receiver in my opinion,
He's
out for
underrated.
4 or 5 games. We've had
He's very
several
underrated.
guys had to step up. We have a starting linebacker that's out for the season. We've had to have a freshman playing in his spot. He's played amazing, so I'm not saying like we're hurting there, but he's played amazing. But we have a freshman linebacker playing right now. We've got we had one of our safeties go out for 2 games. We have one of our good, like, how Georgia rotates running backs. Our third running back is out for the season. So now we've just got Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's several aspects where Georgia's not healthy. And if Georgia's completely healthy, which it looks like they are about to be for this final stretch, I don't know how it always works out that way, but this final stretch, they're about to be completely healthy. I think it's going to be tough to beat Georgia, personally.
Yeah.
I
It
think
always
they,
is, though.
I think Georgia's going to beat Michigan, and I don't even think it'll be. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout, but I just think they would dominate Michigan personally. And of course, I'm a fan, so
I'm not a fan of either. I'm just taking Michigan on it. I just think they're the best team. Like
Hey,
I don't have a dog in this race. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
either way to me. But I
I
just
will. Yeah. I will say this though: if Florida State loses to Louisville, which they might, possibly, which team has a better chance at making the playoffs? Ohio State or Texas? If
Ohio
Ohio
State
State.
because the
Ohio
committee
State
already
beat
has them
them.
above them. I mean, you look at where they're look. I think a main thing that everybody was trying to look at was okay, where's Ohio State going to drop to? And when they stayed above Texas and Bama, I think it was an obvious.
I,
But it's not. That's not my opinion. That's
yeah,
the
yeah, no,
committee's
no,
opinion.
I get you. I get you.
Say they've already shown that they're going to put Ohio State above those 2 teams.
That is true, but in my opinion, I think it'd be very hard to keep out a Big 12 champion that wins outright, that beat Bama head to head. I know what you're saying though. The committee values more of a team towards the
Who
later of
else
the
in the Big
season.
12? No. But who else in the Big 12 is? It's not like they played in one of the toughest
Yeah,
conferences all
that
year.
is true.
Who else in the
The
Big
level
12?
of competition.
Who have they beaten in
The
the Big
only other
12?
team that they have played was Oklahoma, and they lost to them.
And they
And if they
lost.
played Bama now, it wouldn't even be a close game.
But Oklahoma, they kind of blew up. They don't really look like the same team they did whenever they beat Texas.
No, they
I
don't.
personally think Bama's lucky that they're where they're at right now. I think if they played a couple tougher teams, I think they'd be 8-4.
I mean they almost lost to
If
Auburn.
Nine
if
and four.
Alabama played Missouri, they would lose.
They should have lost off.
They should have
I
lost
mean,
to Auburn.
I think Bama's not that great, and I think Texas barely beat them. And I don't, and back, but I said this when we watched that game in person back in the day. I said I didn't think that Texas just beat some amazing Bama team. I said I thought they just beat a decent Bama team. So I don't think Texas is that great.
But yeah,
Personally.
in the Bama Georgia game, like I said, I think it'll be close just for the fact that y'all seem to start kind of slow, but you finish strong always. So I think it'll be like a 7 point game, but you guys come out on top. But we'll have
We've
to wait and
given up.
see.
Georgia's given up a touchdown on the opposing team's first drive, like in the past 5 games, except for Georgia Tech. But then we give it up on the second drive. So, yeah, but
Yeah, that's true. Well, we did our 1 through 4 playoff selections. So give me your championship game matchup. Who do you think makes the title game, and who do you pick to win?
I mean, I've got an obvious choice, so I'm just going to go ahead and say Georgia and Michigan, and then I've got Georgia winning it. I mean, I've already stated why, but that's where I'm going. So.
What about you, Gunner? Who do you got?
Have the same with Georgia and Michigan. I think that it will be close, but Georgia will dominate the game, if you know what I mean. The points will look close, but there will never be a time in that game that you think Georgia's going to lose.
I think I'm gonna be the third person to say this. Georgia Michigan title game. Final score will be 24-21. Michigan comes out on top, I believe. I only say this because I think the trenches, I think Michigan plays better in. They win the line of scrimmage, but I do think Georgia will have, they've got the better athletic guys on the outside, Brock Bowers, Leighton McConkey. So they've got some perimeter guys that can do some damage. But I do think Michigan's O line and D line is better than Georgia's. I know that might be a hot take. I do think
I don't
that
know.
especially their offensive line. I think they win the trenches, but I think it's going to be a really, really close game. But I've got Michigan barely by 3.
I got Michigan against Georgia as well. I think I guess that's what we're all thinking right now.
Yeah.
Those are the two best teams in the playoffs. So I'm
We'll
gonna
watch
take
yeah.
I'm gonna take a. I think it's gonna be high scoring.
Really?
Not that high scoring. I get 24-17.
Who do you got?
Michigan.
Oh, okay. All right, I like it.
Now,
It
I
just
can see
depends.
this playing out because Harbaugh has a tendency to choke in big games. In the playoffs, has he ever won a game in the playoffs? I don't think he has he?
Mm-mm.
So he did lose to TCU last year,
Yeah.
and then Georgia
And when
beat
Georgia
TCU
played them
by
2
what
years
was
ago,
it, 40?
yeah, but Georgia played Michigan in the playoffs 2 years ago, and Georgia dominated very easily. So,
Yeah.
but
So
I'm
I
not
could
saying
see Washington somehow beating them because Harbaugh he does choke in the big games. So
We're-
we will see. The only big game that he can win, and I don't know how, is Ohio State. That's the only big game that he can win.
Hey, we're
He's
gonna get
never
the
won
people.
any other big game besides that one.
We're gonna get the People's Championship. We're gonna get a Florida State versus Washington.
I got Florida State, Oregon.
Oh gosh, that'd be crazy.
So who would you rather play, Florida State or Oregon in the first round?
me?
Yeah.
Probably Florida
Oh,
State.
easily. I'd rather play Florida State.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we play Oregon, I'm gonna be sweating a little bit. But if we play Florida State, I'm like, oh, it's another bye week. I mean, they ain't even got Jordan Travis. It's gonna be wraps. I think it'll be. I think if Georgia plays Florida State, I think it'll be 42-21.
42-21.
Yeah.
Total
I mean,
possibility.
our defense against when we're dominating, our defense seems to be a little lackadaisical, so we can end up giving up higher scores. But I still think we would dominate. So,
Oregon,
but
Washington. Washington. What about Oregon, Washington?
I'd rather play Washington. I think Washington. I mean, granted, they could win this weekend, this Friday, I guess, and surprise me. But I think Washington got away in that first game against Oregon. I think the better team lost that game. I think Washington is not been that dominant and show that they're very beatable in multiple occasions. So I would rather play Washington than Oregon. I think Oregon's a pretty dang good football team. But
I was just curious.
I think their defense is what's going to cost them.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think Washington's defense is better than Oregon's overall, so that's why I give the slight edge to Washington. Like I said, me and Gunner both agree on that one, but you could go either way. I mean, it's gonna be a close game. I feel like for sure,
I
but
think Oregon's gonna wax them.
we'll have to reflect on this and see who's right and wrong after all of our predictions. But my last words before we end everything is roll tide, Sam. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Oh man. I've got
Yeah.
Georgia beating them boys, but it's been a pleasure. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you for our special guests, Sam and Gunner, for tuning into this episode of College
Thank y'all for
Football
having me.
Talk. But this is JT and
The stash, baby. We out.